this was nothing short of a witch hunt. What we've learned from the Cook report are four key points which have been really brushed under the carpet. Let's just have a look at those 4 points. Number one, Cook has found evidentially that there was no political influence. Number two, there was no anti-Semitism. Number three, that his decision was impartial, not influenced by community groups or anyone else. And the most important one is there was no malign intent, so there's no dishonesty. Now, those four ingredients do not constitute anything remotely close to gross misconduct in public office.
The West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner Simon Foster has announced that the area's Chief Constable Craig Guilford is retiring with immediate effect. It follows a row over the decision to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from a match in Birmingham last November. Here's some of what the Commissioner said to the media an hour ago.
I'm pleased this outcome has been reached having regard to due process and the law. That has prevented what might otherwise have been a complex procedure that would have caused significant distraction, impact and cost to West Midlands Police and the wider West Midlands. It was important this matter was resolved in a balanced, calm, fair, measured and respectful manner.
And Craig Guilford himself has released a short statement which says, I have come to the conclusion that the political and media frenzy around myself and my position has become detrimental to all the great work undertaken by my officers and staff in serving communities across the West Midlands. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has said that he has done the right thing. Let's talk to Ben Ellery, the Times' Deputy Chief Reporter. And also Sue Sim is with us, the former Northumbria Police Chief Constable. Can I just turn to you, Ben, first of all? Is this really the inevitable happening? There was that very critical Inspectorate of Constabulary interim report earlier this week. This had to happen?
That's correct. I think it's being perceived as the writing was on the wall, really, for a Home Secretary to come out and lay down in Commons that she had no confidence in a Chief Constable. It was the first time that had happened in 20 years. So it was a question of when, not if, I believe. But there are now questions over Craig Guilford being allowed to retire rather than, facing some sort of scrutiny and perhaps the crime commissioner sacking him over what many regard as a complete scandal.
Yeah, Sue Sim, a former Northumbria Police Chief Constable. What do you make of the fact that he has been allowed to retire rather than resigning or being sacked, indeed?
My personal view, good afternoon, Carolyn.
Hello.
My view is that he should have done the honourable thing and he should have resigned on Wednesday. After the Home Secretary had stated that she had no confidence in him, he should have resigned at that point. In relation, and I know a lot of people are saying, should he have been allowed to retire? Should he have been sacked? Should he have resigned? What would that do to his pension? The fact of the matter was he hadn't been found guilty of a serious criminal offence. He could retire whenever he wanted to. He had over 30 years service. Indeed, he had already retired from West Midlands once. So it was always in his ability to resign or to retire. But for the confidence of the West Midlands Police, for the communities, he should have done that on Wednesday.
And Ben Ellery, is there much political reaction to it? And who else is saying what they really think about the move that's happened today?
Well, yes, a local MP, Nick Timothy, the newly crowned Shadow Justice Minister, has been outspoken about the scandal, really, since it reared its head and has been very vocal. He believes that Shabana Mahmood actually should face questions over this, and questions exactly how much did she know and when. And interestingly, another local MP, Ayoub Khan, has backed Craig Guilford and believes that this is one of the greatest injustices of our time, and argues that not allowing the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans over was just him trying to protect locals, where we know others will claim that actually he was just listening to local activists.
And Susim, the campaign against anti-Semitism are calling now for the Police and Crime Commissioner to quit after he failed to sack Craig Guilford. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I think the Police and Crime Commissioner has to justify his position. He believed that he couldn't sack him outright without going through a process. To be fair to the Police and Crime Commissioner, he would have had to have gone through a process. The ultimate decision was his, but he should have had discussions with his police and crime panel. He should have had discussions with the chief HMIC, although he would know what the chief HMIC felt because of the letter earlier this week. And he was right in saying that by allowing the chief constable to retire, to go, he has, in effect, actually made sure that they can move forward, and they can move forward quickly and regain the confidence of the communities of the West Midlands. That is the most important thing now.
And do you believe the force can rebuild trust and confidence?
Absolutely, because the people who are out there doing all the job, the police officers, the police support staff, they're working closely with their communities. The West Midlands is a great police force. It will move ahead. It can now move ahead quickly. Confidence and trust can be rebuilt within policing. We see it all the time, but now they must be allowed to move forward quickly and build that trust and confidence again.
And Ben Ellery, just back to you. People may be confused about this because they hear the local independent MP Ayoub Khan saying that it was wrong for him to go, but he has been forced to retire. What is the main case against the chief constable? Just outline it in case people haven't followed all the detail of this.
So that's right, and the police force ultimately analysed evidence from the security advisory group, and which concerned whether or not they felt there was a risk of allowing Maccabi Haifa's fans to the Aston Villa match in November, and ultimately that advice was that they did believe it was going to be dangerous, and in doing so, Sir Andy Cook, the police inspectorate, said that the police didn't analyse that evidence effectively and properly. And as the top of the force, Craig Guilford has to carry the can for that. And the police did create their own security reports, intelligence reports, and in it contained details of another game where the football fans had been acting dangerously, but it turned out that game did not actually exist and didn't was completely fictitious and was generated by artificial intelligence, something that Craig Guilford was questioned on at the Home Affairs Select Committee by Lord Mann when he was asked to appear there in December. And again in January, he was called back after his answers were deemed unsatisfactory. And he claimed that no, it wasn't artificial intelligence which had created this report. But then on Wednesday, he apologized and admitted that it was Microsoft's Copilot AI tool which had generated some of this police's intelligence report. So there's the feeling was that the police could have allowed the fans to have attended. It would have posed a risk, but they would have been able to handle it, and by not doing so, they had lost the confidence of the local members of the community.
Well, Ben Ellery, thank you very much. Actually, listening to that, and I'm told we're joined on the line now by Mr. Ayoub, the independent MP for the area. Mr. Ayoub, you've been hearing the justification, as people see it, for the retirement of Craig Guilford. Why do you think he should have stayed?
Well, I've always said, even in Parliament, that this was nothing short of a witch hunt. What we've learned from the Cook report are 4 key points which have been really brushed under the carpet. Let's just have a look at those 4 points. Number 1, Cook has found evidentially that there was no political influence. Number 2, there was no anti-Semitism. Number 3, that his decision was impartial, not influenced by community groups or anyone else. And the most important one is there was no malign intent, so there's no dishonesty. Now, those 4 ingredients do not constitute anything remotely close to gross misconduct in public office. Everything else, every other detail, is a learning curve for West Midlands Police. This was certainly not sufficient to seek his resignation, and it's a dark and a shameful day for Birmingham and here in the West Midlands. We have lost a principled police officer who did not bow into political pressure, who did not cave into any community group, and he acted without fear or favour, and he has been maligned, and the narrative that's been spun right from the very top has been wholly disingenuous.
Well, Ayoub Khan, I'll just outline the case against him. Police analysed the evidence that had been given by the advisory group. They didn't analyse that evidence effectively. Craig Guilford has to carry the can for that. They used as evidence, for instance, a fictional game with West Ham, and that had been generated by AI. You surely can't be happy with that.
Well, let's just pick up on that, Caroline. So first of all, the West Ham AI hallucination. We know that was an error. We know there was no dishonesty. So there was no intention to mislead Parliament.
Are you happy with a chief constable using AI to formulate alleged evidence?
Let's deal with that point. So what did the intelligence have? It had a game which didn't happen. But let's have a look at that piece of intelligence. It said West Ham played Maccabi Tel Aviv. They won 1-0. There were no incidents. If anything, that piece of intelligence, although it was fictitious, would have supported the arrival of the fans. It was a mitigation factor. We know that the chief constable didn't rely on it. He said the same.
But the game didn't happen. So
didn't happen. But it's a red herring.
Yeah.
But it's a red herring.
But
it's an error.
There were a number of mistakes. Are you not accepting that there were mistakes? That it found police overplayed the risk posed by fans and underplayed the risk that they faced in Birmingham?
Well, let's look at what is agreed. What is agreed and what is set out in the Cook report was the night before the match in Amsterdam, the Maccabi Tel Aviv ultra fan base, up to 800, went on a rampage. They went and targeted specifically Muslim individuals. That is undisputed. If the chief constable in the West Midlands decides that they cannot ensure the safety of Brummies, and he made that operational decision without fear or favour, and we know that the findings are quite clear insofar as that is concerned, an operational decision has been made, which we all should have supported. But what actually is happening and what's happened today is that there's going to be a chilling effect on any public sector worker. What message has been sent out and what will resonate up and down the country is that if you do not conform to politicians, then we will take your livelihood. So you must conform.
When you talk about it being spun from the top, what do you mean?
Well, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, used the phrase anti-Semitism. We now know, following the independent, impartial investigation by Sir Andy Cook, that there was no anti-Semitism. So these sort of narratives, which fuel division communities, were false narratives, and they were used right at the top. That is disingenuous. This Chief Constable has been thrown under the bus, and everybody knows it.
But, you say there was no anti-Semitism. That goes completely contrary to so many of the people we've heard of who say that there is anti-Semitism deep in the local Islamic community. How do you answer them?
It's this narrative which gets spun all the time. The amount of Islamophobic rhetoric, and they now use the phrase anti-Islamic hate. The rhetoric that we get without foundation, baseless. The Prime Minister used anti-Semitism. He weaponized this debate. This had nothing to do with race, religion, or creed. It had everything to do with public safety. And we have confirmation of the scenes that took place in Amsterdam. It's absolutely shameful that we can scapegoat. Can I just say,
there were also scenes of some of those Maccabi fans who were being pursued and attacked.
Not disputing that. Not disputing that for 1 minute. Of course there was incidents, and of course there was a Jewish hunt on the following day. Nobody's disputing that. But the silence on the Muslim hunt is so disingenuous. Not a single parliamentarian had it in him or her to say, actually, our British Muslims also mean something to us. We're not going to scapegoat a whole Muslim community here in Britain for hooligans. And it's a disgraceful situation we find ourselves in here today.
Ayoub Khan, you accuse the Prime Minister himself of weaponising this debate. They are incredibly strong words. That is a strong accusation. How do you respond then to people who would say that it's you, indeed, who are weaponising this?
Well, I didn't weaponize it. My objective has always been very clear. I've held a moral and ethical stance in terms of banning all international tournaments played by an Israeli team. I'm consistent in that. I've said that the Russian teams have been banned. South Africa teams were banned during the apartheid. I'm consistent. I'm not selective. And so insofar as this decision was concerned, this was a public safety matter. It was in the hands of the Chief Constable and his senior officers, along with the safety advisory group. Now, they made that decision, and it has been confirmed that there was no political influence on that decision. There was no anti-Semitism within that decision-making process. It was impartial, and there was no malign intent.
People find your words very difficult to believe.
They're not my words. They're not my words.
Okay, well,
they're the words of Sir Andy Cook. So let's be absolutely plain when we are trying to put words out there to the listeners. These are the words of Sir Andy Cook, a reputable officer who conducted this impartial investigation.
But you know that when you quote that or when you make your arguments, Ayoub Khan, people disagree with you. I mean, we've had plenty of our listeners now listening. Let me just read you from Jane. She says, what Ayoub Khan MP is saying is a tissue of lies. He and some colleagues in Birmingham and elsewhere have spouted hatred of Jews. What he says happened in Amsterdam did not happen as he describes. Just answer Jane.
Let me answer Jane. Well, Jane should read the Andy Cook report, because the one thing that's not disputed is the day before the match, Maccabi hooligans targeted Muslims. Don't take my word for it. Don't look at the Sky News broadcast or social media videos. Look at Andy Cook's report. That's his words, not mine. And so far as anti-Semitism is concerned, I get labelled that all the time. I have respect for all communities, including our Jewish community. And I've always said that no community should feel that there are no-go zones. In fact, we had members of our Jewish community here in Aston, outside the Villa Grand. They went to local institutions, local shops, local businesses, spoke to local residents. But this is the problem. We have false narratives, and false narratives which are being spewed right at the top.
Ayoub Khan, thank you for taking the time to give us your view and your point of view this afternoon on Times Radio. Could I just cross back to Ben Ellery and Sue Sim, who were listening to that? Sue, first of all, What do you make of Ayoub Khan's argument that there's been a lot of falsifying of arguments here and that the whole issue's been weaponised?
I absolutely disagree. Sir Andy Cook's initial report, and it is only initial report, stated categorically that the Chief Constable of West Midlands, his force, had over-exaggerated the difficulties that there were with the Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax match. He also categorically stated that the Chief Constable had not mentioned and had underplayed, had not mentioned the threat that there could be to Tel Aviv fans when they were travelling into the West Midlands area because of threats that had been made by the local community. Those are the things that were factual within the actual initial report. But let's not forget, the Chief Constable, or the former Chief Constable, told untruths, unwittingly or not. He went before a Home Affairs Select Committee in December, and he categorically stated that they had not used artificial intelligence. Then he went a second time and said exactly the same thing. I have been before, when I was the Chief Constable, I have been before a Home Affairs Select Committee. You are briefed within an inch of your life by your lawyers and by your senior colleagues about what is the fact of the matter. I find it very, very difficult to believe that Craig Guilford was not aware that that intelligence had come from artificial intelligence.
Okay. Well, Susim, thank you very much. You have there, I think, illustrated very clearly the arguments that have been made over this entire case. Ayoub Khan saying that he disagrees with the decision to let Craig Guilford retire. Susim there saying it's exactly the right thing to be done.